Hi, I'm Damon, and if you don't know this guy, you should. This is Big Brev, and let me tell you, when I say talented, I mean I don't even know where to start with you, brother. I really don't. You are an amazing individual. There's not a lot of people I get enamored with, but from the first time I started looking at your stuff, that's what it is. I became enamored with the things that you can do.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, do you remember what it was that you first found? Like what was the first thing?
Honestly, I met my wife at Mystic Seaport, so I've always been kind of a fan of the shanties.
Okay.
And even though yours is more of a Nordic style, it's just I've always found that to be a unique thing. And that was my first foray into the world of Brev. Only
That's pretty
then
cool.
did I open up the Pandora's box of you, my friend.
Dude, I didn't know the sea shanties were going to take off like they did. I mean, who could have ever guessed that sea shanties were just going to blow up like that? When I was, so during COVID, I was teaching at UHart, and my students kept telling me because I'm an opera singer, and during COVID there was no opera, so they were all like, "Geez, you should be singing on TikTok." And I didn't do TikTok. I didn't even have a TikTok. But all these sea shanties were blowing up, and they kept sending me videos of all these guys that I should be singing with. So one day I finally listened to one of my students and I got on TikTok. I did one TikTok, that was it. And it got like 60,000 views in a matter of like minutes. And so I saw a lot of value in this. So that was when I started singing these sea shanties. And next thing I know, those guys that all my students were sending me videos of, they were inviting me to sing with them. And like, it just kind of took off from there. Next thing we knew, we did the Hoist the Colors song, that Yo Ho song, and it just went crazy viral. And I never would have guessed that would have happened. That was pretty surreal.
And that's the thing with technology. I mean, those guys can be anywhere on the planet. Anybody on the planet can be your collaborator. It's
Yeah.
absolutely mind-blowing the things that you can do if you have a little savvy with technology.
I mean, in that one song, that Yo Ho song that's going around, we've got guys in the US doing that. We got a guy in Africa doing that. We have another guy out in Italy that's in that collaboration. I think there's 7 total guys all over, and we're all over, spread across the world. It's pretty special, that's for sure. It's cool.
But here's what blows me away. I'm assuming, based upon if you look at dates and times, that opera was kind of your first foray into a big time, hey, look at me, I'm amazing. That was the start, right?
So, kind of. I mean, I was like when I was in school, I mean, that was the start. I started off singing in school, and I was definitely like, I was the singer. Like, if you thought about the singers of the school, I was the guy that you thought of, and then my friend Erica was the girl that you thought of, and the two of us were like the two biggest singers in our school. And then when I got into college, I got really into a cappella, but I was damn good at mimicking opera singers, and so there was a voice teacher that heard me sing like that, and she was like, you need to compete in opera. And so I decided to do a competition. It's called the Boston Nats competition, and I won first place. And with that came this full ride scholarship to go to the New England Conservatory to get my master's. And so that was kind of how I got sucked into opera. I just kind of got sucked in because it naturally kind of came out of me. Like it was just something that kind of came organically to me. So I went that route. Next thing I knew, like as soon as I graduated, I got hired by the Opera Theater of St. Louis to just do this big project out there. Next thing I knew, they were writing an opera for me. I was on the cover of Opera News when I was 25, and it just kind of took off. Like I didn't know that was going to happen either, but I followed that. I worked my ass off at it, like because when I started, like I was a raw talent, but I didn't have a whole lot of polish. So I worked my ass off, made my way to that point. And then I realized, like, geesh, I probably realized around 2016 that I didn't really love this career that I had chosen. I was just good at it. And it took me a few years to kind of find a way to segue out of that. And I did that via academia because I loved teaching people how to sing. And I got hired at University of Hartford. And that was kind of my segue out of opera. And then when I got there, I was still taking gigs. I was still doing like opera and like symphonic works. I was singing a lot of Beethoven's Nine. But then when COVID hit, that shut down, and that was kind of like that was when the TikTok and Instagram and all that started taking off.
Just opera. It's so funny because that's such a different world for a lot of people, and for
Oh
you,
yeah,
it's its own thing. You can't do like I was on the dark opera for a while, working
yeah,
the underground opera circuit,
right, right,
but
right.
but it's just at first I thought Brev was probably for bravado because that's how I would describe you were just a man who has bravado. It's not, it's, short of your last name, but
Sure.
you'll never be pigeonholed, brother. I mean, if I'm just looking, I'm looking at your site today, and you go from sea shanty to Aladdin covers to Perry Como Christmas songs. That's a range, brother.
Yeah, for sure. No,
And
I
that's what's
appreciate it.
no again. I mean, it's a God-given talent. It's just I don't know how you just know right away. Obviously, you didn't have this range when you were in high school, did you? Did you
No,
have this kind of bass low end?
I had the low, but I didn't have the high.
Really, you
I
developed that acapella sense later on.
Yeah, like when I was
I
in
mean,
the
not
the
acapella, whatever you call the higher registers.
Yeah, so when I was younger, I was the bass like in our choir, and then when I got into college, I was the bass in our the acapella group. I didn't go quite as deep as I can now because I've learned some like extension techniques to get way lower. But as far as like the range, I just couldn't sing very high at that point. I struggled with the top. That didn't come until I got to NEC and I worked with like an incredible voice teacher that really helped me figure out the whole vocal mechanism and figure out how to use this instrument because he heard in there that I could do that. He was like, I can hear in his voice that he'll have this crazy extended top. I didn't believe him, but everyone who I talked to that really knew what they were talking about, that's what they said. They were like, I can hear that you could go a lot higher. And they were right. Like I just figured it out. I beat my head against the wall in the practice room for many hours, and I finally figured out how to get up there. And a lot of that's technique.
Yeah, again, I mean, who was it? Like Prince, who played like 39 different things. You do
Yeah,
like 15 different instruments, and they're all you. That's what's
yeah,
amazing. Because
sure.
honestly, I mean, if people ever just heard you doing, your bass stuff, and then you popped up, they go, "Oh yeah, that looks like that guy." But if they heard the beautiful stuff that you can hit when you get the higher register, you pop up, they go, "What? This is the guy with that angelic voice." It's just because I mean, you look like the guy who should be here. You just do.
Right.
But there's so much more to you, brother.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
And honestly, you were talking about, TikTok and streaming. I mean, if you got to figure if you got a buck a stream, you would be hanging out with Jeff Bezos, brother. You're in the billions, aren't you?
Uh, as far as streamings go, we have
Like everything you've ever done is streamed together. I mean,
yeah. So just like Hoist the Colors alone, like accumulatively, that sound that went viral got over 3 billion streams. Just
3
that,
billion.
yeah.
Isn't that mind-blowing?
Oh, it's mind-boggling. It's crazy because when I tell people, like, or it's usually not me telling people, it's one of my friends being like, "Hey, this is that guy that you hear on TikTok. He sings the Hoist the Color sound." And usually people are like, "I don't know what sound that is." And I'm like, they're like, "Oh, it's that Yo Ho song," and they still don't know. So like, Brev, give them a little, and I'm just go Yo Ho, and they're like, "Wait, that's you!" And it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty special. I
Yeah.
again, I never ever would have imagined that would have happened. I mean,
That's what I'm saying, man. It's like, how do you describe him? You go, "Oh, he's the Nordic opera country guy." I mean, because
yeah.
now you've delved into country and right out of the box, you come up with this tune Boots, and now you're making your a name for yourself in the country music world.
I'm
It's
so happy for
nuts.
that because if you were to ask like little kid Danny Brevik, what do you want to be when you grow up? He would have said, I want to be a country singer. And my biggest inspiration was Toby Keith. I loved him. He was just I just thought the world of him. And I would just drive around in my Ford Bronco, blasting Toby Keith and Trace Adkins and Josh Turner, Tim McGraw, Brad Paisley, all those guys. And if you were to ask that kid, hey, what are you going to do when you grow up? He would have been like, I'm gonna be a country singer. And I had that in the back of my mind throughout my entire opera career. Like my little shtick when I was in my master's was I used to take opera arias and sing them like a country singer. And all my friends thought it was hilarious. They used to be like, how do you do that? You sound exactly like a country singer. And I mean, that's just because those are my roots. You know what I mean? Like that's my real passion. And so once I started getting all these followers on social media, because we just hit 2 million across all of them. And in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking like, how do I use that to do more country? Like, how do I utilize this fan base that found me through sea shanties? And not all of them found me through sea shanties. I got some that found me through singing Hallelujah. That's the Leonard Cohen song that's up there, which is more high. And then I have some that started following me because I started giving vocal technique stuff too. So like I have all these different fans, right? So in the back of my head, I was like, how do I make it so that I can still like keep all these fans happy, but introduce them now to this other world of country music? And I think with Boots, I was able to do that just because it's an original song. So they support me. They're like, hey, Brev actually wrote this song. It goes pretty deep, it goes pretty high, and it's pretty catchy. With Boots, like that song it's like a comedic song. Like there's a lot of comedic elements to it.
Yeah.
It's not like the most serious song. So it
And it
showcases more.
switches up because when you get to the refrain and you're going with the different kind of boots you like, it's layered. It's
Yeah,
you. It's layered. It's
exactly.
spoken word, goes into verse, goes into it's good, man. It's
Well, I
a good
appreciate it,
start. It's a
man.
great start. I mean,
Thank you.
now you're gonna have to figure out which way to go now for a while, brother.
Yeah, yeah, we're working on that. So we got a. I've already started working on a lot of other country songs too, a lot of originals. Just got to get those into the studio and track those. But I have quite a few of them written that I'm excited about. And then on top of that, I'm keeping up with a lot of the other stuff that I'm doing, like the sea shanty project. Still have a lot of those on the docket. Few things being released in the next few months. So we got our fingers on a lot of pies right now, and I'm making
That's
sure that we keep it going.
that's the thing. You almost do too many things too well. It's if you're a one trick pony, you just kind of ride down that one path and you see how far it takes you. You've got this hydra of things going, but it's all beautiful, right? You love it all.
I
I
love
mean,
it.
some of
Yeah,
it more than other, but you can tell you're passionate about it. I mean, you were doing the song from Aladdin,
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
and some of the gals that you collaborate with along with your guys, fantastic talent
Phenomenal.
you get to work with.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I know. When I was singing opera, if you told me that back then when I was singing opera, hey, in a few years you're going to be doing what you're doing now, I would have called you crazy. I didn't even know this was a job back then. I didn't know this was a possibility, to be doing all these cool things like this. I'm in my garage working from home. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty cool. It's pretty special.
So real quickly, just because there's people don't know a lot about you. You grew up where?
Yeah, so I grew up in Holliston, Massachusetts.
Okay.
That's in like the Framingham, Natick area of Mass, closer to Boston. Um, Grew up out there. I played sports when I was a kid. I when I was playing football, what was funny is in ninth grade, I remember we had this really cool coach, and he used to ask me like, "Hey, Brev, what are you going to sing today?" So I'd practice. He used to have me sing like on the sidelines. I used to do national anthems for the football games. Uh, yeah, I was just a normal Massachusetts raised kid. Nothing too crazy. Yeah.
I can imagine you singing smack on the front line going, "You're going down." And the guy be like, "Oh man, he's gonna kill me." Because I mean, you're a big kid, brother. I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
what you top out at, but I've seen some of your workout videos, and I mean, holy moly, you always been a big boy.
Yeah, I wasn't as big then, but so powerlifting, lifting, bodybuilding, all of that has been a passion of mine too throughout. And so I just love lifting weights.
When do you find the time to sleep and eat? When seriously. But
We find a
you're
way.
young now, so you got to do everything you can, and then eventually you'll find a niche, or you'll just do it all and do it all well. That's rare nowadays, brother.
Yeah, a lot of people told me like, "Hey, you're gonna have to pick a niche. You got to pick a niche." And when I started my TikTok, that's what they were saying, and I was like, "I don't think I'm gonna. I think I'm just gonna be me." And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I just was decided to be me and did it all because I'm still getting to do all of it. And that was one of the issues with opera was I was just doing opera. It was like all day, every day, flying around, living out of hotels, and just doing it for opera. But I always was like, man, and my dad knew this too, because my dad used to say, he used to be like, geez, you're just singing opera, but you're so good at all this other stuff. And he was right, because it used to bother me. I used to want to do so much more.
Wow.
Now I get to
Well,
do it all. So I'm lucky now.
it's funny when you mentioned Big Dog Daddy because I had the pleasure to meet him a couple of times, and I just said, man, he would have loved you, brother. He really would have. You would just be his cup of tea, man,
I
because you're
know.
a man's
Well,
man, but you're
I hope so.
talented, and I could tell you got a big heart to go with your big frame, and we just can't wait to see where this goes on down the country road, you know?
Yeah, man. Me too. It's exciting.
So we've had you play one of our shows so far. You helped us out with St. Jude, and now you're talking to us in the lounge. So let's see where it takes. Let's see where
Yeah.
Brev heads next. We're hopping on the Brev train, you know?
Yep. Thank you. Keep it going, man. I really appreciate the support. Appreciate the support. Country 92.5, you guys have been great to me, and I'm I can't tell you how grateful I am for it. It means a lot.
No, we are grateful to know you, and you'll be one of those guys like we back in the day when he was starting, before he was, selling out this arena. We knew him, and
Yeah,
hopefully you'll still remember
hopefully.
us, brother.
Definitely. I'll never forget. That's for sure.
So where do you want to send folks? Where's the best place to see everything you do? Because again, you are a posting maniac. I mean, you've got what's the best place to find, because they want to follow you.
All right. So it kind of depends on your demographic. So if you're a Facebook person, you can find me on Facebook. It's Big Brev. Instagram, also Big Brev. If you're a kid and you're on TikTok, it's actually not Big Brev. It's Big Brevic, which is just my full last name. Big Brev had already been taken. But on YouTube, I'm also Big Brev. It's pretty much Big Brev across all of them except for TikTok. Spotify is also Big Brev.
And for you folks out there with kids, he has added by popular demand a toddler line of Big Brev clothing. I saw that too.
That's right. Yeah, we got the requests. I asked my merch team. I was like, "Hey, should we do toddler stuff?" And they're like, "Let's do a poll. Let's see what people say." And people voted for it, so they got on it.
You've been in the business long enough to know. Listen, writing and merchandise is where you make the cash. Performing is the fun, but writing and merchandise is the cash.
Yep.
Thank you, brother. And again, I mean, we'll talk to you again, because again, we're riding the Brev train, brother. So thank you for joining us here in the Dunkin Music Lounge.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.